Okay, everybody, we're gonna get started here. 6 o'clock. Is this on? Yeah. I got to talk into it, I guess. Still loud in here. Yeah, it's loud. Okay, everybody, thanks for coming to the workshop tonight. We're gonna get started. So first off on the work session is budget modifications. Did everybody see that? Actually, Ann made a modification today. Modification. Yeah, an update. So there was less. So, anybody have any questions? Yeah, it was about the chips. Anybody have any questions about that? No. No. Okay. Next is the public hearing tonight for the 2025 preliminary hearing. We've gone over this. Anybody have any questions since they've looked at it even more, or think we're good? Good. Next is public hearing for the short-term rentals. We're gonna open this up tonight to any comments from anybody. We will probably leave it open for another 2 weeks, so to give people opportunity if they can't make it tonight to send something in by email or call me or one of the councilmen. So we'll get started on that tonight. Referral exemption for agreement with Sullivan County. Matt had a question last month about how many towns actually accepted it. I called the girl this morning. Everybody but 5 towns have accepted it. And then me and Matt talked a little bit, and then he asked me about which ones they were, and she didn't give me that. So I think Matt ended up calling her.
I was most concerned about our bordering municipalities, Thompson, Forestburg, Fallsburg, and they all opted out. So it's really meaningless. The villages have opted out too. So why should we stay on? Everybody else doesn't have to provide that information for us. So what are we going to be, the only people providing information on our own development to these various municipalities? So I just want to thank the board for being patient with me on this, and I'm satisfied that we can opt out of it without any negative implications.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Next is fuel oil bid. We had another bid on the 17th on last Thursday. We're going to award the bid to Black Bear for fuel oil. I'm sure Tom will talk a little bit more about the fuel oil bid. Next is a pickleball nets and posts. Because of our procurement plan, our policy, I'm sorry, drew a blank. The policy that we have for procurement, because it was over $3,000, we had to get 3 quotes. So we did get 3. One was at 4,500, one was 4,300, and the last one was 3,100. But because some of the reviews of the last one that we received, not great quality, and so the boards kind of picked the middle one to go with, because of the quality of the last one isn't not a lot of great reviews on it. So it's something we want to last. So we have the money to take care of it right now. So we're leaning towards the middle quote.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's Mike's talking about the quality of the product, not the quality of the vendor.
Yeah, the product. So we'll be going on that tonight. Anybody had any questions about that? I know I sent everything. We were actually gonna award the bid, but we really didn't have anything until really yesterday. So we'll vote on it tonight anyway, instead of ratifying it, because we really haven't voted on it. So we'll vote on it tonight. Next is a cell tower agreement. The cell tower that we have over here, we've had since 2005, and that one letter said, right? So they want to put 3 more antennas on that tower. And for them to do that, they got to get the board's approval, and they will pay us to be on there. But giving it the agreement to Ben, because it's a lot of stuff that we don't understand with numbers and everything else like that. So I gave it to Ben. And even Ben, there's some things that we might have to ask, the building department, and actually even call the cell tower company to get some of the stuff that they're looking at. And we got to make sure that the number that they want to give us, an extra $4,000, is adequate. So that's something we want to look into a little bit more. So I'm asking the board tonight that, be a little patient. We'll probably let this go until next meeting so we can get some more information. We might even try and set up a meeting with the cell tower company and get more information on that. So we'll just probably table that for a little bit.
Mike, what did we get from the original agreements? Do you know that?
Well, this year it's going to be 89,000 for the year.
Okay.
So they're going to add on to it, but we want to make sure that it's, right. So
That'd be 4,000 for the year, not 4,000 extra per month.
it's per year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it's per year. Yeah. So next is the 911 address for the parks. Actually, it's not for the parks, it's actually for the trails. 911 went through this, and the planning of Sullivan County went through this. A lot of our trails don't have any 911 numbers. So the county went through and supplied us with numbers and the roads that they're on. So if there's an emergency on the trail, fire and ambulance can get to them a lot easier by knowing what road and what number is. So we've never had that before. So 911 or the planning department in Sullivan County came up with all these numbers. They just need us to ratify it or accept it. Karen Barnes has been involved in this too with the trail system. So it's a good thing because, like I said, being a first responder, we get called and you could be on one trail and it's 5 miles away and the person's stuck in the middle. So you want to make sure you're going to the right section. So it's a good thing. So that will be approving tonight. And then the last one, we have a resident that has is building a house for themselves, and they're requesting to be able to have a camper for a bathroom on their property during construction. Our code does not allow it. So she wrote a letter to the town board asking for permission from the town board to do something like this. Because technically right now it's in violation and she can't get inspections done because she's under violation. So they requested to be able to keep the camper. They also had a construction container, and that's not allowed in the town either. So that's actually being removed. Actually, they told me today or yesterday, which we're going to go check anyway. But the camper request was to be able to, when they come up on weekends, to be able to go to the bathroom and when they're working there. So she would quit. Everybody saw the letter, right? So they're asking for permission. We've done it in the past. The board before us had done it with somebody. And then we ended up having to put a time limit on it because he had it for like 2 years. So, I don't know if the board's feeling like we should do it. I think a time limit would be the right thing for it, to say, hey, for 6 months, do it. And then you'd have to be ready to do something else. But it's up to the board too. If anybody has any discussion on this, let's talk about it now.
Oh, it's at the end of the dead end road, right?
Right.
What are the other neighbors? Because nobody's gonna drive by this ever. There's no reason to go down there.
Right.
How do the neighbors on that? There's 4 people on that road, 5.
Yeah, I don't know if we've had any complaints so far. But
What section of town is it in?
it's right off of South Road, Walker Lane.
At a Little League field?
Yeah, right. That little dead end that comes back towards Old Tools where the canal is. The O&W canal there.
We always seem to have problems in the past with the time limitations. It becomes
Ends
a
up being,
semi-permanent part of the neighborhood after a while.
yeah.
And, maybe if they went up there with the camper for a weekend and went back home with it, maybe that's an option, but
But it sounds like they live in the city and it's something that they can't take on and off because they live in the city. So
Listen, I understand not wanting to haul it back and forth. I have a boat that I need up on Swinging Bridge and I buy a slip simply for the fact that I don't have to tow it home every time. Right, so I understand not wanting to tow the camper all the way back to the city, even if they have a parking spot.
but technically, in our zoning, you're not allowed to really have the
Yeah,
camper.
well, listen, you guys know my opinion on that. I think we're a little overreaching in some areas. I think that we should allow people to have their campers on their property if they want. They seem like they're trying to build a house. Mary's gonna be there doing inspections all the time, so if they're doing something negative, she can call it right out and we can get it corrected. I have no issue with it whatsoever.
Mike, do you recall the last exemption we gave? Was that demolition or was it construction?
It was construction.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they just overdid their construction?
Yeah, it took them like 3 years.
Okay.
It was the board actually before us that gave them the time limit. And then we ended up finally telling them, we gave them one extension. And then we finally told him in July of 2023, he had to do it, and he did. So it's gone, so the violation was lifted.
So we're saying right now that they have the footings in and they're ready for inspection?
Yeah.
So they are working
To move forward.
to move forward. Okay, I would support for something with a time limit.
I think if we tie it into to the permit and the CO, it makes sense to me. I mean, if they're coming up and doing most of the work themselves, to have that availability. If we're not getting complaints from the neighbors, if it's an eyesore, if it's something that is a problem that we're not aware of, but if it's just a trailer that lets them have, sanitary facilities. I think if we keep a time limit on it, tie the permit into it, and there's no CO as long as that trailer's there.
Right.
Let them complete their construction, have the availability, and then make sure that it's gone, where they get no CO.
Now, Ben, how do we go about something like this to it'd just be a letter from the board saying that they had a certain amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, if you approve it tonight, motion in a second, the resolution will include the time limit.
Mhm.
And then even Mary can send them a letter telling them the town board to sign.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on this? Or?
Gary, what are your thoughts?
Have a problem with it.
Yeah, you gotta talk to them.
Personally, I don't have a problem as long as you give them a time limit and stick to it. Either 2 years, we tell them to stop.
Basically, yeah. Then they'd be in violation again.
Personally, don't have it.
If you tie it to the permit, so a permit has an expiration date, if they're not finished by then, or if they didn't get a CO by then they would just go into violation, and then you can just make it a condition that they don't get a CO without removing the trailer.
You could also say that you tied into getting the permit and the permit expires, that's a violation in itself.
Mm.
But then an additional violation would be continuing to have the camper there after the permit has expired.
well, can't they keep the camper there once the house is built as a recreational vehicle?
But you can as long as nobody's staying in it. And it's gotta be registered.
Any questions about water or septic at all?
No, I don't think they have either one yet. So, it's something part of the build. I don't think they've gotten that far. They just got the permit probably a month ago.
Well, septic, in terms of a camper, if they have someone pumping a tanker camper, have however many gallons, I don't know what they have, 30 gallons, 50 gallons, 100 gallons. rainwater tank. So that's separate, they would just have to have someone pump it, and that's another thing that we were talking about earlier. If Mary will be there, so if they're doing something fishy, they're gonna see it right away. In my opinion.
Right. Okay. Anybody else on that? Okay. All right, we'll revisit that in the resolutions. Okay, that ends the work session, so we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So, first things is, we're gonna start with, the public hearings. Actually, we're gonna start with the preliminary budget. So if anybody has any questions about the preliminary budget, we'll, start that one off first. No questions, no comments? No? Brittany, do you have anything? About the preliminary budget?
I don't.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close the preliminary budget hearing? Motion by Gary. Second by John Roofer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to the public hearing for short-term rental local law. Anybody interested in getting up and talk? No? Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, I need to hear you up here, though. No. I wasn't pointing them at, I was pointing at the podium. Go ahead, Kathy. Just, Kathy, just state your name, please.
Kathy Dawkins.
Yeah, and anybody in here, just give you a heads up, you don't have to give your name if you come up, so it's up to you.
You didn't know Kathy. That was
Well, we all know Kathy.
Why'd you trick her? Why'd you trick her?
You could,
Except if you're Kathy, then you can have.
Yeah.
you can retract that, Kathy, if you want.
I actually wrote up some comments, but then I got the local law and I have just a couple things, questions, comments about the local law itself. On page 2, 157-5, subparagraph B, that the permit's going to be valid for a year. So is that going to be a rolling 365 days, or are we going to say all permits start like on the 1st of June and go till the 31st of May? How's that going to work, just from the perspective?
Yeah, there's gonna be a start date and end date.
So even if you come in August, it's going to go through, okay, I was just curious. On page 3, 157-7, subparagraph A10, maximum occupancy, Tyler. So 2 people per bedroom plus 2 people per full-size convertible sleeping accommodation furniture, futon, hide-a-bed, whatever. Boy, that sounds to me like we are just wide open and we're going to put 15 people in, I guess it's going to be an even number, 16 people in the basement without appropriate exits. I don't know. It just seems loose to me. I just can't fathom that. I can understand that most of these kinds of facilities would have a sleep sofa, that kind of a thing. And I think making an accommodation for 1 or 2 of those is reasonable, but to leave it wide open seems a little bit begging for trouble, if you want my opinion.
That's-
On page 4, subparagraph B, insurance standards. I'm not sure, Ben, maybe you can answer for me. Can we require that there be an insurance policy to hold the town harmless in this kind of an instance? And does that hold any water? I don't really claim to be an expert in that or know. I just know that up on the mountain, we require that for our community. So I don't know if that's a reasonable thing to do, but I do have concerns that I've read some stories in the news about some unfortunate tragedies that have occurred and the town has been held liable because they permitted. So that's something that I would suggest we take a peek at. And if it's possible to do that, have a fairly substantial insurance policy that would hold us harmless as a town. So those are my comments on specifics. And I would just say, I wrote a whole bunch, but I won't read it. I'm just going to say that I guess it was, I don't know how many years ago it was. I met the two of you for the first time in my life at an event that was held down on the Bashkill. And there were a lot of people, my neighbors, who are in this room, and I met them. And so the short-term rental community was there in force, and I met them and we sat and we chatted. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, some of them talked about, gee, I inherited this property from my grandmother, my great-grandmother, whatever. I bought the property back when the rates were really high or the prices were really high. And it's really hard for me to afford the property without some form of supplemental income. And I would really like to be able to rent my property some nominal number of nights per year so that I can recoup enough money to pay taxes, pay insurance, pay the maintenance kinds of costs associated with the property. And I listened to my neighbors and I thought, that's a very reasonable thing. That makes sense to me. And I think that that's grounds for wanting to meet my neighbors halfway and find some sort of a compromise that, I had been a hard no on short-term rentals. And I felt like, okay, maybe it's time to listen to them and find something that meets their needs. And we can all sort of work together as neighbors to find a solution. And to be honest, I don't feel like the local law is much of a compromise. I feel like it's a bunch of people who have come in and shoved a bunch of stuff down the throat of the people who live here full time. And we've stuck out our hands, we've stuck out our necks, we've said we want to help you, we want to be good neighbors. But I don't feel like that's coming back the other way. And that's just the feeling that I get. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else?
Matthew Bremer, Mammoth resident and short-term property owner of about 5 years running now. I live in and rent out the Phillips Court Church House as you got something.
Hey,
The gods are against me. Or, there we go. Yeah, that better?
Yep.
Okay. No, first off, I don't have anything written prepared and I have not had a lot of time to digest this. I want to say thank you all for what has been a very no. Okay. I'll keep it quick. But thank you all for, I think, what's been at least a couple of years running where I would think there has been extraordinary due diligence. Everything is a compromise. I would be hard pressed to say one side or another has shoved anything down anyone's throat. I do hope everyone at the table and in the room will come to some type of conclusion on this. I do think at this point, time would be of the essence to get some real legislation on the boards. One concern I do have is about the time frame, the 1 year. I know there's probably been a lot of discussion about this. It actually seems rather short, although the county is also 1 year. My concern would be, what is going to be the protocol? Are we going to get a notice electronically in the mail? And if we are late, and I think there is a time frame on that, but sometimes you're late on taxes, there's a penalty. you're late on this,
You lose it.
you'll lose it. I mean, I think that's a little draconian.
Yeah,
So I
we,
think we
we've
need-
we've talked to the building
Okay.
department and they're gonna, before a month before you run out, you're gonna get an email.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's
I-
the way.
I know I get an email from the county as well. We have to turn in our receipts to them. And I've been late. Usually the lady says, okay, thank you. Thank you for turning it in. And it's not like we lose our license. So I want to make sure that if we short-term rental owners are extremely busy and doing 473 different things, that we don't simply are precluded from keeping our Airbnb registered because it lapsed, I mean, we will keep it going. And, we just want to make sure that,
It'll be a learning experience for us too.
yes, absolutely. And it's extra work for everybody. Otherwise, I think there's a lot of thought that's gone into this. I'm not going to speak to, too many other points other than I think it would be great to sort of get this one and done soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Hopefully my surveillance device doesn't quite trigger as much as Matt's. Okay, excellent. We're
So
in
far,
good
so
shape.
good.
My name is Eugene Hawken, recent transplant to the town of Mamakating. I haven't had a lot of time to read this over, so I kind of sped read this as I came in. I didn't realize we got there least, but generally speaking, I wanted to say it seems relatively reasonable and accounts for most kind of core safety concerns. A couple of things where I saw that might benefit from some clarification. There's a notice to neighbors, but it's not, I believe, in 1578 B, adjacent properties. So I don't know, just clarifying on definition of adjacent properties. It's not really an issue, just to make sure that people are clear as to who they're notifying. So people across the street, is it people that touch the back of the lot? There's and then one other question that was not completely clear, but I may have been reading too fast, was are there potential grounds for denial or limitations outside of non-compliance with any of the rules that are stated in the current rules? Is there basically any subjectivity to the license permitting, or is it you comply with these rules?
Can't have any violations on the property.
Yeah.
There's any violations. I think that's probably the biggest
That's
one.
probably, yeah, which is completely reasonable. It makes sense. I mean, that's what the law is for, to ensure that everyone's safe and the
Yeah.
neighbors are happy and content. So, which I think this does a relatively good job of. Yeah, otherwise it looks good to me. And I kind of followed as we just recently finished construction of the house, but we bought the property maybe 3 years ago. So we've been following along on the sidelines. And our plan is to use it as a permanent residence, but we travel a lot. And so our thinking is occasionally we might rent it out. And so we're happy to see that this kind of got clarified. My only other comment, something I've made in the past, is that I think, to be honest with you, these things are an opportunity for extra revenue for towns like this. I don't know what the complexity is under the town bylaws to actually add a small tax, but like I'd be happy to pay, like a 1% tax on top of this just to the town itself. And frankly, I think small towns like ours could benefit from additional funding. So that would probably be my only addition. But otherwise, thank you very much for the hard work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to say anything? Okay, Brittany, you have anybody online?
I do. First, I have someone who's listed as ALN.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, hi. Good evening. I'm a fellow STR host. I just had a question, expanding on the gentleman who just spoke. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. What was I just want to know what kind of a thought process and the thinking was besides the notifying the neighbors. I just feel like that could potentially, be extra work for both the host and the town. I feel like some people could have unreasonable bias and could come into play and kind of convolute the situation and add more work for both parties. So I was just kind of wondering what the thought process was behind that.
Really just to make sure that all your neighbors were on the same page with you and knew what was going on in that house.
Okay. All right, that's it. Okay, yeah.
Because depends on where you live, in the lake areas, some of the houses are real close and, all of a sudden they got odd people there. We want all the residents around it to know that it's an Airbnb that people will be in and out.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what was the answer? I I'm at work, so I'm a little like not as lucid as usual, but what was the answer that you guys provided about the adjacent properties? Like how close would we have to notify? Or was that to be determined?
Yeah. I don't know if I understand the question.
It said we have to notify adjacent neighbors. So like, is that within a certain radius or how is that going to be defined or is that to be determined?
Yeah, could be. Right. Talking to them, they can't hear you. So it would really be, based on how far a distance around, that's not in here. So something we might have to look at before we pass this law.
It would be
Okay.
similar to going to like the zoning board or I don't know if the planning board has it too, or when you're doing certain things, you have to notify your neighbors within 400 feet or 500 feet or whatever the law is.
Yeah, it's something we're
Gotcha.
gonna have to look into.
Okay, sounds good. We appreciate all your hard work.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night. Yep.
Who you got next, Brittany?
Okay, I have someone who's listed as an iPhone user.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hello.
Sorry, I've been battling a cold, so I apologize for my voice. I am a short-term rental owner, and I just have a few questions. So, and maybe a couple of comments as well. As far as the notifying the neighbors, yeah, I know it's, this constant conversation about like how close people are in the lake communities. I just, want to continue to express that some of us are not close to neighbors at all. Some of us can't see neighbors. So if it's decided that we need to inform neighbors, that doesn't sound, completely unreasonable. It just does kind of bring like a puzzling question specific to my circumstance. But it's fine. I get it. And that doesn't seem unreasonable, but just food for thought. If there is any way to give like a distance, we literally can't see a house from our house. So for what it's worth, if there's a way to address that, would appreciate it.
Okay.
And then I know it said something in the letter on the town page, and then I'm sure it also says it within the body. I just wanted to mention that, if we're violated for something, of course, we can't have open violations and be allowed to be short-term rental, renting our house short-term. Having said that, I just want to give an example. A couple of years ago, our home was violated for not having the address posted at the top of the driveway in both directions. We did not know that was a thing. We remedied that within a few weeks, and that was that. There are going to be those little violations that come up that kind of you're just not aware of it. So if there's a way to clarify a time frame for clearing up violations, I actually think that would be the right thing to do and just help with clarity all around. Maybe it does say that. I have read as much as I can. And so if it does say that, I apologize, but maybe just give a time frame of like, a month to clear up a violation or whatnot. That would be appreciated.
Yeah, that's a little bit tough because all our zoning laws are online also. So before you start doing stuff like this, you have the ability to go through the zoning board and look to see what you have to have and what you don't need to have. I mean, every residence.
Sure.
So
Sure. But I mean, something like an address on two sides of a tree I wonder what percentage of people in Mamakating know that, you know?
But it's really a
So-
county thing because it's 911. 911 requires you to have a number in front of your house being able to see from both ways.
Right. But I mean,
That's been
I'm
law for a while.
okay. Well, I don't want to get caught up on that one thing. I just,
Okay.
you know, my point being that was just one example. I do think there are little violations that come throughout the years that could potentially be for any of us. And if, you know, I could see someone that is not this board, because this board is actually trying to do something and put fair regulation on the books that appeases the most people. But fast forward to a future, you know, government, I feel like there could be abuse there if it's just like, you have a violation, you're not allowed to rent out your property, you're done. That feels extreme. And so if there's a way to avoid that, and maybe that wouldn't happen, but I like to plan for things and not hope for things.
Peter
So-
speaking. I don't see that as the intent of the law, nor do I believe that it's something that's going to be abused by future boards. I find it pretty simple. You put an application in, and when the building department goes through your application, they're going to say, "Hey, you got violations up here." You know, they're
Oh,
gonna have
no,
you
I
address
mean,
them.
like, yes, sir. I
But
just mean like, if you're
You're given-
renting and a
You're always
couple
given
years
an
down-
opportunity to
Uh-huh.
clear the violation. So it's
Okay,
not like
okay.
nobody's
Okay.
trying to spring something on you to say,
Right,
"Oh,
right.
we found a reason not to give you this permit." It's here's a
Right.
violation, fix it. You know, and you got X amount of time to do that.
Right. That's exactly what I'm asking. That's all I'm asking, is that there's a sufficient amount of time. Like, we don't have any current violations, but like if we get one down the road for some obscure thing we didn't even know about, just given a few weeks to clear that up in a sufficient time frame. That's literally all I'm asking.
Well, I mean,
That's normal.
that's,
Okay.
that's the normal, that's the normal course of business for the building department and how we clear
Okay,
violations.
great. I just don't know if that needs to be written. If you don't think it does, you know, it's up to you guys.
I don't know that means it needs to be rewritten. I mean, that's how violations are cured.
Okay.
So rather than rewriting all the laws and you know, for this, we're basically going off of an awful lot of the guidelines and laws that we already have, and if you abide by them,
Right.
then
Right.
we don't need to spell them out within the STR law.
Okay, and then the next thing, as referring back to the section that Ms. Dawkins referred to, I agree with her. I think that is very open-ended. So I know in a past meeting, I remember the board discussing sometime last year or something, could you do 2 people per bed plus an additional 2-person occupancy or something? And to me, that's fair. We would have no problem with that. You know, I do think it is very open-ended. So I second what was said earlier.
To clear that up and not to cut you off, because I just read it after Kathy brought it up. Number 11, right after it says, if the property has a septic system, the maximum occupancy shall not exceed the capabilities of the septic system. There's not a house in the town of Mamakating, unless you live in the village of Bloomingburg, that has a sewer system, if I'm correct. So basically you have to abide by your septic system.
Right. Okay. I mean, we don't foresee it being a problem for us. I just wanted to second what she said. And then my last comment and question really is, you know, as someone who doesn't know a lot about the laws, I've learned as I've gone along over the years, but I have become familiar that there are bulk codes in our town. Does short-term rental need to be added as an allowed activity in the bulk codes? I know that, you know, there are other activities that are written into those. So I'm curious if, while this is being written into law, is it also needing to be added there, or that's not a thing? And you know, I don't know if anybody has an answer to that right now, but
Yeah, like I said, it would be put into the bulk code that short-term rentals would be allowed in the areas. So,
okay, that's great. Thank you. And then I just want to say that I have been very impressed with the overall approach of this board over the last couple of years. I have felt heard. I think fully understand, as you've said in the past, not going to please everybody all the time. You're going to try to please as many people, but I feel like you have been doing that. I have felt heard, and I think many of my fellow short-term renters have felt heard, and so I just appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brittany, do you have any more? Brittany?
At this time, I don't.
Okay. Go ahead, Lori.
I was brought up, it turns out that if you're applying for a variance or something that needs a public hearing, the code says you have to notify everybody within 500 feet.
Okay, thank you, Lori. All right, if we don't, oh. Huh? Sure. We're open.
I was just gonna, so the valid point about the person coming in over Zoom just mentioned about the not giving a cure period for a violation. You guys may want to actually consider this because it's 157.10B, right? If the CO notices violation or gets a complaint, right, they are to notify. And then at the same time, it also says the CO may take any of the following actions. And action 2 is suspend short-term rental permit, right? There's other actions they can take, such as require corrective action, and those say give them 30 days. But it seems per the law, they can choose to just suspend, right? To give notice and instantly suspend without allowing for a cure period, which is probably what's open to abuse. So just my suggestion would be, it doesn't preclude anything that would be required by the zoning code either way, but is for B subsection 2 to say suspend the short-term rental permit, if uncured after 2 weeks of notice or something of that.
Could be a dangerous safety violation. In case we don't suspend immediately.
Could it be that a temporary suspend? That makes valid sense.
Suspension is temporary.
Okay, so that's not a full, resically rescinding of the permit.
Right.
Okay.
You could have had a fire. You could have had
no, that
somebody
makes-
run into a building. I mean,
that makes perfect sense. Yeah, my thinking was that allows for full revocation, but it's just temporary suspension. That's perfectly reasonable. Thank you.
there goes that machine again. Okay, if we don't have any more, actually, we've talked about it in the work session. We're actually gonna keep this open. We'll revisit it on November 6th and just see if we get any more. It's been out there for 2 weeks. I mean, we really haven't gotten any emails about it or calls. So, but I'm giving, another 2 weeks, just keep it open and see if we get any more. So, if you have people that haven't heard about it, want to know about it, let them know that it's online and, we can go from there.
Mike, we should get a motion to continue the public hearing on November 6th at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. So can I get a motion?
Yeah, motion to continue short-term rental till November 6th until 6 p.m. Starting 6 p.m.
Second.
Second by Pete, first by John, second by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so now we're gonna move on to public comment. 3 minutes each individual, 30-minute max for anything on the work session. No? Okay. Brittany, you have anybody on that?
I don't.
All right, moving right along. Highway Superintendent report.
Good evening. Roads resurfaced this year have been completed. The final process of cleaning up the excess chips from the chip seal process happened last week. And we'll still be going around tidying up any loose remaining chips on the roads. We're going up the next couple weeks, cleaning up some tree debris in the ditches, which is gonna parlay into the next event starting on the 29th, which has been Tree Innovations, who won the town bid several months ago. We'll start working a few days a week with a few of our guys to take some trees down around town. I have a list, as Mike knows about, and you guys, and I have a meeting tomorrow with somebody that's got some tree issues, so it'll be a growing list. I believe we settled on about 12 working days with Scott Goodrow, the owner of the company. That'll pretty much run the money that you guys allocated out. So I do want to say thank you for making a move on this important issue. But those 12 days, we're gonna get a fraction of the trees that really need to get tended to. As I'll tell you, there's a lot of trees around and there's a lot of dead trees around. There's a lot to be done, and that's all over. It's not just here, but this is definitely a step in a direction, a good direction. So thank you. And then, yeah, I just jotted something down quick just to piggyback on what Mike said. Yeah, my recommendation for fuel oil was Black Bear. They won the lowest, they won the bid, being the lowest bid provided. All the companies this time around used the same fuel prices for the day that the bid called for. And from the rail car fuel price for the same day it called for, and Black Bear was the lowest bid. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question on that, Tom?
Yeah.
There was no index on that, the zero. I mean, are they delivering fuel for what it costs them to deliver?
That's what the price is. Yep. They're giving us that cost.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Unfortunately, however, it's still more than we would have paid if we just took it a couple weeks earlier.
I know it, saw that.
So. Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Next is supervisor's report. So I got a couple of things tonight. First off, I'm going to start with coffee with the sheriff this weekend, Saturday between 10 and 12. I was asked to try and get the sheriff down here to do coffee. And we're going to actually hold it right here. I'm going to get coffee and donuts, and anybody that wants to come down, meet the sheriff or just talk to him, we will be here. And it's a good thing. 10 to 12. Yep. Next is our Halloween party is Friday night. It's a pretty big thing for the town. The kids love it. Last year we probably had over 1,000 people come. We were turning people away actually because we ran out of parking. So we do need volunteers. If anybody's interested that night, come on down, help with parking. There's also something happening in the village that night, dedicating a playground in the park, which will start at 5:00. So if anybody wants to start there and then head over to us, because we start at 6. So, a lot of things happening, and hopefully it'll be a beautiful night. Next is, went to a very interesting thing the other day. Me and Karen went, Jim went, the veterans trip to Washington. One of our own, John Lacey, got to go down this year. His son was his chaperone. It was a very great thing that they did for these veterans. Over 80 veterans went down to Washington to look at everything, the walls, and, they have a whole full day of stuff for them. And just to see them off that day, it was a pretty amazing thing. So, if anybody sees John Lacey, ask him how his trip was. I'm sure it was a great one. It was very touching thing to see all these veterans. So if you ever get a chance to go or you have a loved one go, it's definitely worth going. So next is early voting starts 10/26, which is this Saturday. And it runs through November 3rd. Every day is between 9 and 5 each day, except Tuesday and Thursday, where it'll be 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Sullivan County Government Center. So, if you don't want to get caught up in the day of elections and you want to vote early, it's definitely a place, to go up there and vote early and get, your vote in. Next, I also have a this is from Sullivan County, O&W Rail Trail. They have a hollow moonlight trail walk, Howell, along the historical O&W Rail Trail in Mamakating. So it'll be 5:30 on Friday, October 25th. So that's another thing on Friday. Trailhead across the street from the Basher Kill Winery on 1132 South Road. It's free, this event is, and it's brought to you by the Sullivan County O&W Rail Trail. And they also have, we're gonna post it online for us, but they have a little survey that they'd like the public to be involved in. So if you go online, we'll post it tomorrow. The survey it's a QR code. You hit it and you do a little survey. And they want to get some feedback on the trails and stuff like that. So if anybody gets a chance to do that, it'd be a good thing for the community. That's it that I have. So next we'll go to abstract number 2024 abstract number 22 for $265,436.63. Can I get a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the application.
Motion by Peter. Second by Matt. All in favor? Everybody get a chance to look at the financials? So can I get a motion to accept the two financial reports?
Motion.
Motion by Matt. Second by Gary. All in favor? All right, approval of the minutes from 10/1/24.
Motion.
Motion by Matt. Second by Tyler. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, move on to the resolutions. A, approve the budget modifications. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve, budget modifications.
Motion by Peter,
Second.
second by Gary. All in favor? Approve, ratified exemption agreement with this County of Sullivan.
Motion.
Motion by Matt.
Second.
Second by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Accept bid from Black Bear Fuel Oil.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Peter,
Second.
second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Approve A plus, for pickleball nets and post for the amount of $4,350 for Park Midland, from the Park Midland account. Motion by Gary,
Second.
second by John Roofer. All in favor?
Aye.
E, we're gonna table until me and Ben get a little bit more information on this. Can I get a motion to table it for 2 weeks?
Motion.
Motion by Matt. Second by Tyler. We'll table it until November 6th of 2024. Next, can I get approval for the 911 addresses for the trailheads?
Motion to accept the, 911 addresses.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by John. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last one is the camper. So somebody want to make a resolution?
I still think we have to work out the time constraints.
Do you? Oh, okay. Sure. Okay. Nobody's stepping on him.
Monica, my husband is in back.
Could you just talk to the mic, please?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Monica Dubrzicka. My husband is in the back. We don't want it permanently on the property. It's just until the house is up and we can use the facilities in the house. And then we're gonna take it off the property. That's all. The container was taken off the property yesterday morning. It was moved, so it's no longer there. So this is just temporary, literally temporary. Hopefully by this time next year, the house is gonna be up and usable to some extent. And we'll take the camper off. We don't want to keep it there.
So if we give you 6 months right off the bat, and then
6 months might be a little bit
Well, yeah, but maybe you can, when we get to 6 months, maybe you can reapply and we can see the, the progress of what's happening.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that, the board okay with that or?
I'm fine with it. I think the fear of the board or anybody in general is that this is something that isn't typically allowed and we're just making sure that it's
No, I
not
understand.
abused.
We didn't know about it.
No.
And it took us literally almost 2 years to get the permit because of certain issues that we had with the permit, getting the permit. Hence, we put it on a property because we come up and we have to deal with some things on the property.
I think we all want to see that you're successful in building your house.
Well, I hope so.
And we're just trying to make sure that there's not going to be a problem.
No,
I'm in favor.
we have lovely neighbors. We like them. They like us so far, so.
When does your permit expire?
It expires in 26, I believe, because it's for 2 years. So, but we're hoping by this time next year, the house is gonna be up.
Okay, but like I said, we're gonna start with the 6 months and then when it gets closer. So you come back to us and say, and we'd like to see the progress, and then if it's not a problem, maybe we go more. You know, if ends up being a problem, then we might see a different view of it, you know, that's all. We got to prepare ourselves because we can't have this be a precedent either, you know,
Okay, I
With
understand
others.
that. That's fine.
so.
So,
So.
can we extend it to a year? Because it's going to be a log home. And we have to wait for the logs to be delivered. Once we tell them to, that we're ready for the logs, it's gonna take 60 to 90 days for them to have them up here, because they're coming from South Carolina. So if we can get the foundation done and ready, we're coming up to the winter season, so there isn't a lot we can do in the winter. But if we can get them up and ready and have them delivered sometime in March, there should be up and put together hopefully by mid-year, early summer next year. So if we can get it for a year or, more than 6 months.
Listen, I have no issue with tying it in with their CO, right? As long as they can't get the CO to the trailer for me. I think that's the easiest timeline to follow. It gives them an opportunity to build. God forbid we have a horrible winter, they're not gonna be able to build the house, especially a log home. You know what I mean? I mean, they will, but it's gonna take time, so I have no issue with just going with the CO, like, no CO until the trailer's removed, or packed up. Again, you can have a trailer here as long as it's not open to live.
No, we don't intend to keep it here. Okay. Because
All right, you
If
just
it's on
gonna
the
be
house.
living in it while you're doing construction work?
no, unfortunately, we can't live up here yet because of our work. We are both employed and it's just not doable. And it's a 3-season camper. So even if you wanted to, it's just not doable.
I'm a little more stringent than Tyler. But at the same token, how much can you really get done in the winter time? Maybe the end of this coming building season, end of the summer, this next year. That's a time frame.
Basically,
Yeah, that's,
right?
yeah. I think
It's
it's
just
really,
slowing down now. I know November's a little low, but
I'm fine with Tyler's. I mean, I like tying it into CO.
Jim, what do you think?
Honestly, we don't know them. I like the 6-month idea. Before we find out they're living in it, we don't know who they are. We don't even know what kind of camper it is, but it looks like we taking their word for it, but we're okay with it. I don't see why 6 months, and then at 6
Leave it.
months. Start automatically approving it.
So at
Which
the
is
end
how
of
I-
6 months, all we have to do is just come up and file another
write another letter to us.
Okay.
We'll give you an extension.
okay,
As long as everything's going good, I don't see a problem,
okay,
you know.
fine.
This way it gives, gives us something to watch a little bit too, and, make sure that everything's going good. And then you can give us updates too. There's no, you have my email address. So I mean, you can always just email me and say, hey, Mike, we're doing good and this and
I can send you pictures of the house coming up.
yeah.
That's fine.
Yes, Mary. Yeah, Mary will be doing inspections also, so. So that, let's leave it at that for now. And, you know, if the board's okay with it, you know, we'll keep it at 6 months and then we will revisit. And like I said, if everything's going good, there shouldn't be a problem getting an extension.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. So, can I get a motion to give them 6 months from now until the end of April? And then we'll visit it and see how things are going.
Motion to make an allowance for the trailer for 6 months.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Yeah. No. No. All right. So we'll get that letter out to you. You know, and it'll be, you know, we'll go from the end of the month to the end of April and then we'll revisit it. Like I said, just contact me at the beginning of April and then we'll revisit it. Yeah. Well, I was just giving you the time limit starting and I see what you're saying, but once we get this letter to you, I'll have Mary give you you know, start her inspections. We'll get that straightened out with, you know, make sure the letter and stuff.
Yeah.
So she gets the letter so she can move forward.
Don't have to postpone it.
Yeah, just keep working with the
And,
building
and call
department.
for inspections, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I know you can't get inspections of the violation, I understand that, but this letter is gonna take care of that violation. So she can now come and do your inspection.
Yeah, I'll talk to him tomorrow morning and tell her what the board said, so. All right, so that's the end of that, resolutions, and then we'll move on to committee reports. Now Peter has one.
Have a report from the building department for the period of September 1 through September 30th. In that period of time, there was 2 single-family dwelling building permits issued, 43 others. There were 21 renewal permits put out, with total permits issued for 45. Certificates of occupancy issued with 30. Violation notices issued were 112. Violations that were corrected were 69, and municipal searches were 20. The building department did 54 construction inspections, 14 other investigations, had 12 court appearances. And we don't have a number right now on how much money has been received. Monthly fees received from the building department was $15,731. And year-to-date amount of fees collected was $216,187.74, respectively, Mary Grass.
Thanks, Peter. We didn't get anything from the meet, right, Matt? I didn't get anything. Okay. Anybody else have any committee reports?
Ward 4 had their meeting a couple weeks ago. I want to thank everybody who attended. We had a lovely time. People who don't show up, you don't know what you're missing. So.
Thanks, Peter. Announcements. I have one quick announcement. It's again, just hopefully it's taken care of, but got a little bit more information about the trailers and the tires over by the Homeowner. We got a hold of Prestige again on Monday. And then he had a problem with the tire guy. He had to find a different route because the guy from the tires disappeared and didn't return his calls. So he assured me and Mary that he is getting somebody else and that it will be taken care of by Friday. So we've been told this numerous times. I'm not going to hold my breath. So just wanted to give some of the Phillipsport community some hope that this is what the answers we're getting. But again, we've had numerous people tell us that before and nothing's really happened. At least we have seen some work down there. He took all the tires out, got all the rims off. So it's a matter of just removing everything now. So I just wanted to give an update on that. Anybody else have any announcements? No? Anybody? Well, I mentioned a lot of stuff that's happening this week, so like everybody come out. Should be a beautiful night on Friday and come out and have a little fun in all the events that we're having. So next is public comment, 3 minutes each individual, 30-minute max on any new business. No. Go ahead, Laura.
So I came with a few words I wanted to say, and Mike, in your announcement, you sort of stole most of my thunder about early voting and the importance of early voting. And what I really want to appeal to are members of the club I've been part of for more than, I don't know how many years that I've been voting, which is I only vote on election day. And I haven't been a member of that club for the last 3 years, and I'm really happy. To me, voting was showing up, doing your patriotic duty, exercising a right a lot of people died to give us. I loved doing that, felt really good about it. Well, then I started early voting. You still feel really good about it. What you get to miss are things that have happened to me in the past. Waking up on election day to 12 inches of snow in your front yard. Hurricane Sandy, waking up after you've been without power for 8 days. Those that were here in 2022, and happily that was the first time I tried early voting, the machines all malfunctioned and people got to sit out there for an hour and a half. So none of that happened. So again, I want to appeal especially to my fellow, I only vote on election day. Please show up early. It's great feeling to know that your vote has been banked and you don't have to worry about craziness that happens on election day.
Thanks, Laurie. Anybody else have anything? Yeah, Chris.
I am Chris Lesser, and I'd like to take a moment just to mention the passing of Mike Rowe. Just to get what I was going to say. Frankie Rowe. I guess he touched quite a few people's hearts with all of the people that paid the respects for his passing. That's another thing I want to mention. We had the 65th annual Sullivan County Visitors Firemen's Association honors past presidents. I'm not going to go through a whole lot of this stuff. I'll get right to the point here. But the award was presented to past chiefs Richard Dunn and Thomas Morrow. I presume everybody here in attendance knows Richie Dunn is one of our people in the highway department. And of course, Tommy Morrow is our elected official for the highway superintendent. And another person who's not elected, but lady over here is elected, her husband, William Bartley of the Worthborough Fire Department. So here we have some. So we have some local people in our employ, if you will, and also other than that being here in our community, which I think is pretty damn good. So there you have that. And here, I'll give this to Karen.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else? No? Brittany, you have anybody online?
I don't.
Okay. We do not have an executive session tonight. So can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Tyler. Second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, our next meeting is November 6th. It's a Wednesday night. All right, it's a day after elections.